Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right Show. Sam Mirejovsky behind the What's Right microphone. Happy Thursday. Sam at whatsrightshow.com is my email. So, of course, I'm still on the road. This week will be all week out of the office. I'm in Prague in the Czech Republic. Woke up this morning, 6 a.m., which should have been about 9 o'clock time back home in Vegas. And I see, of course, this absolute tragedy unfolding in D.C. Two Israeli embassy staffers, very young people, young adults, Yaron Lashinsky, Sarah Milgram, fatally shot by a whack job left-wing nut, a terrorist who, once he committed these murders, turned himself in, and then began yelling, "Free, free Palestine." This just right in front of Washington, D.C.'s Capitol Jewish Museum. So, look, I think one of my couple of things. Number one, I immediately am looking at this, and I thought in my head, the immediate reaction I had is obviously not just sadness for two people who needlessly lost their lives, not just for the fact that we have people among us capable of murder, but I'm actually, my first thought was, I wonder how many people you and I know that are perhaps quietly or not so quietly, but I would say, just kind of to themselves, feeling sympathetic for the shooter. And I'm not going to name him. I'm not going to give him any glory whatsoever, but this guy's a Hispanic American guy, lives in Chicago, radicalized, right, by leftist rhetoric, felt that he was doing something on behalf of the Palestinian people who are, being wildly victimized by Israel, right? That's the narrative. He goes there, takes a gun, shoots two people dead, pulls out a keffiyeh, starts waving it around, loses it, somebody steals it. Classic parable of how leftism works. Anyway, how many people that you and I know are out there looking at this news going, yeah, attaboy? Because that's the real problem, right? I mean, I'm saying this about Luigi Mangione, the shooter who targeted the United Healthcare CEO, shot him point blank range, execution style in the back, the wee hours of the morning. You remember that murder right there that transpired. Look at how many fans the guy has. Okay, and it's astounding the number of Americans that think that guy was, in some part, maybe doing the right thing, or at least, fighting for a cause that mattered. I mean, that part of it absolutely makes me sick. So I'm just, I'm telling you, this is just a matter of fact. That is the principal thing that I thought about in the wake of this. Now, the other thing, of course, I always bring this up whenever an incident like this happens, because I am certain, right, that there are people that knew this guy, that had, an inkling of what his political motivations were. And I always come back to my story of that, the time that my family knew a nice guy, we thought, living in Irvine, California, who ended up going to the LL ticket counter and shooting up and killing a couple of people before he himself was shot dead by the security people there. And, I always, I reflect on this and I think, was there a sign? Was there something there that, that people picked up? And the fact of the matter is, not always. But this is different, right? This is a highly politically charged situation. Now, there are a lot of idiotic takes. Now, for one, I am hotly bothered by the fact that that AOC, and I saw, what was it, just a couple hours ago, 3 hours ago maybe, I saw that Ilhan Omar posted a tweet, and I have it. Oh my gosh, I have it here, Robbie, somewhere. I didn't quite save it. I'm going to make sure I've got it. I just absolutely could not believe this. That she would have that she posted this. But yeah, Ilhan Omar gave her condolences for what occurred. AOC did the same, Chuck Schumer. All the people that have been engaged in the kind of rhetoric that makes people mad at Israel, want to lash out, want to help the Palestinian cause, all coming out of the woodwork to lend their support here. No, I saw something. And by the way, yesterday was a spectacular day. What Trump did in the Oval Office when the when the president of South Africa visited was legendary, and we're going to get into it. I'm going to cover it here, but I'm pointing this out because this is the kind of stuff out there that's circulating. This is how the left thinks, and I want to put it out. I just want to give you a little bit of insight on this. So there are people out there talking about the 2,000 white farmers that have been killed in South Africa. And by the way, I love that a number of leftists are actually bringing this up and acknowledging that it actually happens, because you ask CNN, it doesn't. Then this people will say things like, well, but there's 50,000 Palestinians killed in Gaza. And they would say, well, listen, man, you can call one thing a genocide. Look, Trump is calling the murder of 2,000 white farmers genocide. And he turns around and discounts that occurring in Gaza. They're calling one thing a genocide, not the other. Can't apply this universally, said one particular tweet that I responded to earlier today. It's not logical. It's propaganda, some guy wrote. And, can I ask the obvious question? Did the black, right? Did the white South Africans attack the black South Africans? Take 271 hostages, rape and pillage their towns, right? I mean, did that happen? And I know what people will say. They'll talk about apartheid. And I'm going to get into that a little bit, because I think that's a bogus argument, okay? But did that happen? Because, again, we have to acknowledge, and this is what the left refuses to do here, we have to acknowledge that the issue in Gaza is fundamentally this. The Gazans elected a government. The government is Hamas. Hamas went in and waged war against Israel. And not just against the state of Israel, but against some of its most vulnerable citizens. And then Israel fought back. And war, in the immortal words of Shakespeare, is a bitch. Okay? It's awful. War is despicable. It's why we want to avoid war at all costs. But what Hamas did on October 7th could not be ignored. And you can't pretend that it can be ignored. You can't, as a leftist, sit there and go, well, yeah, but. And the reason that the left does this is because back in somewhere in their little brains, they believe that the attack on Israel was justified. And that's the disqualifying position for me. That right there is where they fundamentally lose me. None of that is justified. None of that it was, is, or will ever be justified. And war is war. And they pick the fight. This is what I would say to every one of these wannabe pro-Palestinian terrorists that we're clearly breeding. It's a consequence of leftist propaganda in the U.S. The thing to tell them is, right, fundamentally, their side that they purport to support, that they purport to back, that they believe is the wrong side, picked a fight waged war in the most vicious and vile and depraved way as possible, leaving Israel, a government protecting the people, failed in their protection. We can get into that too, with no other option. And then, finally, one thing that they will never acknowledge is while their arms, their fighters, their leadership is deep in bunkers, their population, their most vulnerable citizens are left in harm's way. In fact, quite the other way around, Hamas will place its command centers, its weapons depots, its servers, its bunkers for top leadership under hospitals, schools, and other places where there are a number of civilians in order to boost casualties of war, civilian casualties. They do that on purpose. And every one of these leftists that supports this nonsense, the same leftists that sit there and point their finger, how dare Trump call out the president of South Africa? Oh my gosh, get the vapors over it. These people are perfectly willing to reorganize reality in their brains. And that, of course, par for the course for people who engage in radical leftism. So let's analyze this, get through all of it. But I'm just, it's all connected. It's all there. And one thing you've got to hand Trump in the background of all of this is absolute common sense and an IDGAF, right? He doesn't give a F about what people think of him. He's coming in there and telling guys like the president of South Africa straight to their faces what he thinks of them. And the left is melting down and losing their minds. They are not used to being dealt with in this way. And I'm here. I'm loving it. All of it. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam & Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian behind the What's Right microphone. Okay, here's the Ilhan Omar tweet. This is the one that I was just mentioning minutes ago. Quote, I am appalled by the deadly shooting at the Capitol Jewish Museum last night. Holding the victims, their families, and loved ones in my thoughts and prayers. Violence should have no place in our country. Now, I wonder, by the way, listen, I wonder, does she mean the U.S. or Somalia? It's a good question. Okay. By the way, here's somebody catching up to Ilhan Omar, wanting to get a comment from her in the wake of her comments and the shooting.
Can I get your reaction to the shooting that happened in D.C. last night?
I'm going to go for now.
I'm going to go from now. She doesn't want to say anything. Because you know what? That tweet that she put out is bull crap. It is absolute garbage. She doesn't mean it at all. Here's the shooter. After being arrested, you can tell what his political affiliation is. You can see how radicalized he is and spewing some of the same stuff that Ilhan Omar and members of the squad in D.C. say all the time.
No. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Horrible, right? And again, shouting that slogan, you've got to understand this. So we understand there's evil in our midst. There are probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans who are listening to this, watching this clip, and are having a little attaboy. Well, yeah, good for you. Yeah, show those Jews a thing or two. Trust me, I'm telling you, it's out there. It's disgusting. Now, here on the What's Right show, we are, I don't think this has to go without saying, I'm just going to say it here. Not a lot of love and affection for the Hamasistas, or whatever you want to call them, all right? I feel bad. By the way, I feel bad for the Palestinian people. I feel bad that they're stupid, that they support Hamas. I feel bad that they have an, ass backwards religion that cannot remove hate from their hearts. I understand that there is a minority of people in Palestine who get it. And the Gaza Strip and elsewhere, they get it. They know that Hamas is bad. I understand that. I should feel terrible for them most. And I also understand fundamentally that these supporters of this, the leftists here in the U.S. really have no understanding of what the situation is in the Middle East. For them, they view the Jewish state, Israel, Israelis, and by extension, of course, Jews, as successful people, as people in a position of strength. And because of that, they view them as having the upper hand in the power dynamic, and they apply Marxist logic to support the people that are inherently weak in their minds. That's all it is. That is how simple and reductive leftist reasoning is on the subject. Okay? Now, I'm going to get into this. I'm going to get into South Africa. Okay, we're going to talk about South Africa 100% because it's similar reductive thinking there. The same people that are like free Palestine are thinking, well, the whites living in South Africa oppressed the blacks, so now they're getting their comeuppance. The same people that are looking at the situation in D.C. last night that are going, yeah, go terrorist guy. When Trump plays a video of, saying that, look at these crosses over here representing dead white South African farmers, they're going, yeah, dead white South Africans, yay. They're thinking this. And that, by the way, explains largely the media reaction to what Trump was doing. Because they are deeply sympathetic and I would say are very much they very much have for years always followed the plight of Black South Africa. Now here's one thing people, by the way, one thing people forget, and I want to get to this now so we can set this up for after the break at the bottom of the hour. One thing people need to understand is the white South Africans are the most indigenous of all the people that exist in South Africa. They are the most indigenous. It was their land. People there, the Black South Africans, are the newcomers, relative newcomers. Okay? That, by the way, that breaks people's minds to think about this. Now, apartheid is untenable. Nobody's going to argue here that racial segregation is a good idea. Now, the problem is when your country is overrun by people who have come from the outside and don't have the same level of investment in the land that you do, how much voting rights should they have? And if they have full voting rights, you just hand your country to them. Sometimes I think to myself, this is a very unpopular thought, but this is kind of what Biden tried to do, or whoever was running the auto pen, Ron Klein and Anita Dunn. It's what they try to do over the last 4 years in America. We're just going to get enough people from the outside to just overrun the country, and eventually we'll take the country over that way. And so whether it's 12 or 21 million doesn't really matter. It was a significant step toward achieving this. The Democrats had just 4 more or 8 more years in office. They were able to achieve a Kamala Harris victory. Imagine what could have happened just over the next 4 years, they would have doubled down on this. I want to pick this apart a little bit because you got to understand what this is all about. Everything here is connected. And I'll try to parse it out for you as best as possible. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Thanks for listening, folks. Great to be here with you. Thanks for being here. Of course, this hour brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., right here on News Talk 840 KXNT. So, my email, as you well know, sam@whatsrightshow.com, on X, @whatsrightsam. Trump yesterday had a visit from Cyril Ramaphosa. He's the president of South Africa. And a while in the office, the Oval Office there in a meeting, Trump, of course, confronting him about the white genocide occurring in the country, and Ramaphosa acting as if he has no idea what Trump is talking about. This is great. This is exactly what the media wanted. They wanted this to be all, shoved aside because they don't want to talk about this either. So here's the initial denial or kind of conversation back and forth with Ramaphosa at the Oval Office in the White House yesterday.
What would it take for you to be convinced that there's no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for the president. It's for him. No, seriously.
I'd rather have him answer.
Yeah, I'd rather answer that. It will be.
Our president will respond to you.
Yeah, let me,
Thank you, Mr. President.
It will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends, like those who are here. When we have talks between us around a quiet table, it will take President Trump to listen to them. I'm not going to be repeating what I've been saying. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me. So it'll take him, President Trump, listening to their stories, to their perspective. That is the answer to your question.
But, Mr. President, I must say
President
that
Trump.
we have, wait. We have thousands of stories talking about it.
Sure.
And we have documentaries, we have news stories, and that. Is Natalie here, somebody here to turn that? I could show you a couple of things, and it has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure,
We
we
have,
will.
let me see the articles, please, if you would, and turn the lights down. Turn the lights down, and just put this on. It's right behind you, Johan.
So here, Trump, of course, pulls out some articles that he has printed up and then says, let's dim the lights and let's play it on the TV, put it up there for everybody to see. So good. And he plays this video. Here's a video that was the first part of what he showed. The room full of reporters and his guest, the president of South Africa. And it's a compilation of various politicians in South Africa saying some fairly unsettling things, if you ask me.
There's nothing you can do. There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land.
Yes.
South Africa, occupy land. That's who we are.
Honorable
Do whatever
member,
you want to do.
Deputy Speaker,
You can
Deputy
withdraw my
Speaker,
membership from
Deputy
this
Speaker.
useless parliament.
Honorable. Yes, honorable member.
Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot to kill. Nyamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer.
That's a chant literally saying kill the Boer, which are the white Afrikaners, and then, obviously, shoot the farmer, kill the farmer. Again, suggesting there's some, there's a giant rallies or political rallies in South Africa. Okay. Now, this is not the party that's in power. This is a party that has a significant amount of power in parliament. My point is, right, that this is happening. It's real. So the tape. I think he's making bullet noises here and shooting into the air.
The mayor of DA in PE is a white man. So these people, when you want to hit them hard, go after a white man. They feel a terrible pain because you have touched a white man. Not because Mashaba and Soli will not be touched. They will be touched, don't worry. But we are starting with this whiteness. We are cutting the throat of whiteness.
Shoot to kill. Yamasa. Kill the brewer, the farmer. Kill the brewer, the farmer. Brr, pa, pa.
Imagine, having your country taken over by people like this. I'm just, think about South Africans. I grew up in a neighborhood of South Africans. Irvine, you look it up. I mean, Irvine, California, you talk about the South African diaspora. There's a metric ton of South Africans, largely of European descent, yes, who live in Irvine. I don't know the stories, right? Stuff is real. So Trump plays this video, and then he plays also the video of the white crosses. We've all seen the video, okay? And Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, I have no idea where I saw it. What are you talking about? I have no idea what this is.
Those people were all killed.
Have they told you where that is, Mr. President? No. I'd like to know where that is.
I'd like to know where that is.
This I've never seen.
This I've never seen before. Oh.
Okay.
I mean, it's in South Africa. That's
We need to find out.
So I figure out. I have no idea. So this is wild. Now Trump calls out Ramaphosa on this genocide thing. He says, "So look at it on the screen. Look, this is a great moment, right?" So he pulls this out. He goes, "Okay, let's look at this." A reporter asks. I'll play this tape.
These are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death. Horrible death. Death. I don't know. To pick anyone, white South Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws. And this is all. I mean, I'll give these to you. So when you say, what would I like to do? I don't know what to do. Look at this. White South African couple say that they were attacked violently.
President Trump, when will you go and see for yourself if it is?
Well, I could do that. Look, here's burial sites all over the place. These are all white farmers that are being buried. This is one after another. This family was wiped out. I'm just looking.
Can we get a report from President Trump?
Your reaction to those videos, Mr. President?
Well, I think the videos are so. No. When you look at the videos, I mean, how does it get worse? And these are people that are officials, and they're saying that kill the white farmer and take their land. That's what. And I have other friends in South Africa. I have people that left. One in particular that says you can't go there. He said they want to take your land. They take your land and they kill you.
Yeah. By the way, Ramaphosa's sitting there like a little girl on the potty. And he's like, whoa. And then, I mean, this guy's acting like he's never seen this before. And the media are all cleaning it up for him. By the way, this goes back to 2018. Here's President Cyril Ramaphosa on talking about taking land from the whites. This is in a political rally speech. This is the very guy sitting in the Oval Office going, I have no idea what you're talking about.
The question of land, the land of our forefathers and our foremothers,
must return to our people without any fail and without any payment of compensation. And it must happen now.
Yeah, we're going to take the land of our forefathers. By the way, that's a lie. That land never belonged to his forefathers or anybody there in that room who's black, and that's just a fact. They could find the indigenous pygmy tribes that lived, in South Africa once upon a time, and I guess find them. But this guy ain't no pygmy. Okay? But he's obviously saying we're going to confiscate the land. We're not going to give him any compensation. Then you've got other politicians going, killed the boar, killed the farmer, po. And then they're all sitting there. Everybody's sitting there pretending like it didn't happen. Trump's got this right, folks. He is correct. And thank goodness that this so-called ambush, or at least characterized, is handling. Yeah, I mean, Robbie, you're right. The Dutch migrated there starting in 1650s. So in the 17th century. All right. But I know, listen, I mean, you can't explain that, Robbie. You can't explain this to a liberal. A liberal wants to give a land acknowledgement, in Boston to some, cockamamie tribe that at some point somewhere allegedly occupied the land there because, they're the rightful owners. Even God knows who came before them, but none of that matters. They're really big on this stuff. So, but yeah. So, okay, I'm pointing out this guy is a complete and total fraud. All right. By the way, there was a golfer. His name is, I think, Retif Goosen. And he came in the Oval Office, and he gets asked about this, and he basically says, yeah, this has been going on. It's a white guy, right?
I grew up in an area in South Africa that is a farmland area, Polokwane, and there is some issues up there. Obviously, my dad was a property developer as well as a part-time farmer, and some of these buddy farmers got killed. The farm is still going. My brothers run it, but it's a constant battle with farms they're trying to burn the farms down to chase you away. So it is a concern to try and make a living as a farmer. And at the end of the day, without farmers, there's no food on the plate. So we need the farmers to produce the food.
Farming, right? He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't even want to do what you're doing, right? They love farming. They don't want to leave. But it's a struggle.
Yeah, and food and fresh water is the most important thing in life. Without those two things, you can't survive.
Your family and your brother, do they feel safe on the farm?
They live behind electric fences. Try and be at night safe. But it is constant whenever you leave that something could happen. And
there's nowhere to live.
Both of them has been attacked in their houses. My mom's been attacked in her house when she was 80. So it is difficult.
Here's what's going on, right? This violence is state supported. And the state wants to say, well, we just have crime. It's just crime. It's just a little bit of crime. But you have politicians out there saying, kill the white guy. Okay? The same way that you have politicians here in the U.S. saying free Palestine. Okay? Or 86-47. These are not just words, right? These are calls for violence. And they become essentially state-sponsored when they're coming from the mouths of influential politicians and leaders of the country. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Be right back in just a moment. Hi, Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome back to the What's Right show. By the way, Robbie, I don't know if you remember this. I had back when I lived in California in Irvine, for several years, I had a South African housekeeper. And she was fantastic. Because I'll tell you, Robbie, fact, we never felt more safe at home. This woman was built like a refrigerator, all right? A huge human being, tall and wide, strong. One time, right before, this was one of her reasons for why she left South Africa, why she emigrated to the U.S. She got carjacked. Black guy comes up to her car and sticks a gun in her face. She grabbed him by the arm and beat the living daylights out of him. And then they left the country. So I'm just telling you, if anybody came to the door, at my house, a former Mirejovsky resident in Irvine, California, certainly would not have lived to regret, to enjoy the aftermath of that. Okay. This stuff is happening. These stories are happening. And by the way, the media, the responses from the media are insane. I'm talking, of course, about the White House beatdown that Trump put on the president of South Africa. Here's CNN reporter Larry Madawo from Kenya, who's trying to say that I guess kill the boar doesn't mean kill the boar. I mean, I guess it doesn't. I mean, let's listen to this.
What the videos show is Julius Malema, the far left opposition leader of South Africa. His party is called the Economic Freedom Fighters, and it also showed former President Jacob Zuma. What Julius Malema was singing, "Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer," was an anti-apartheid song from the struggle against white minority rule in South Africa. They've explained that this is not a literal call to attack and kill the farmer because of the historical nature of that, but it's been weaponized by groups in South Africa and increasingly by the MAGA right in the United States to essentially misrepresent what is going on in the country, Boris, Brianna.
Oh, it's representing the MAGA right. I mean, it's like, okay, I guess from the river to the sea doesn't actually mean the destruction of Israel then, right, Robbie? I guess free Palestine doesn't literally mean kill the Jews, except when it does. Right? You see how we understand what's going on here in the U.S. Maybe this thing down in South Africa is a little bit removed. But every world leader tiptoes around it because, of course, in the world of racism and such, the black person will always be right. The white person will always be wrong, inherently racist. Racism really can only be something that is perpetrated by a white person. This is, part of the liberal mythology. And that, of course, is absurd. Here you have a white minority who built up a beautiful, successful, wealthy country. And the minute that they opened it up to democracy, it's just a fact. I don't, it's not advocating for apartheid here. I'm just saying once they opened up to democracy, the country went to hell in a handbasket. And I don't care how many Morgan Freeman movies you make about Nelson Mandela, it doesn't change the fact that the country is, forever destroyed. And nobody wants to say this because to say that, just creates all sorts of problems. Well, I don't give a rat's for it. I'm telling you, this is what it is. So, okay. And the media, okay, the ambush, right? You saw the ambush. This was a great part. They're like, oh, it was an ambush. And everybody all said basically the same thing. Here's a montage of various news sites that kept repeating basically the same line.
To the dramatic scene in the Oval Office today, the tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Up next, another Oval Office meltdown, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump is being accused of conducting something of a diplomatic ambush of South Africa's president in the Oval Office.
To be with you, I'm Katie Tur. President Trump orchestrated another Oval Office ambush today.
Today, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader.
Zelensky territory, where essentially he was a bit ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Felt like an ambush in there, kind of like the President Zelensky meeting in the Oval Office.
This was an ambush. It was orchestrated.
Cyril Ramaphosa brought his best diplomatic self to this meeting, but nothing could have prepared him for this multimedia ambush.
What started as
to some degree, an ambush.
Well, Katie, I mean, it was an ambush.
Ambush.
Ambushed.
An ambush.
Ambushing.
Ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Yeah, it was an ambush. That's what it was. Never mind that this president sitting there has done nothing to protect citizens of his own country because they're not his race. That's the reality, right? Nobody wants to talk about that. You know, so I guess, like, listen, so if you're CNN, right, and if you're this stupid reporter, Larry Madawo, and you're like, oh, well, kill the boar doesn't actually mean kill the boar. And CNN goes, oh, yeah, that's right. Then, the next question I, of course, have is then when Trump said, go march on the Capitol peacefully, and everybody in the media said, that meant a takeover of the government. That meant an insurrection. Huh? What about when you say that there are only two genders? And suddenly you're, fueling a mass trans genocide. The left is wholly and entirely inconsistent about this stuff. That's my point. And it's silly. And Trump doesn't care at all. And I'm loving it. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings, friends from Prague in the center of Europe in the Czech Republic. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Forgive me, I'm on the road this week, so doing my best to deliver a top shelf program, still Monday through Friday here on News Talk 840 KXNT. I mentioned at the top of last hour, woke up here. That's roughly 9 hours ahead of time back in Vegas. So big time difference. The shooting in Washington, D.C. occurred just around 9 p.m. So that, would have been, approximately 3 a.m. here where I'm at. So I just had no idea this had happened until I woke up this morning. And immediately my brain, I was had a series of thoughts. I fired off some tweets, which was still in the middle of the night back home. A lot of people wondering, Sam, why are you tweeting in the middle of the night? Have you turned into Trump? Kidding. No, I haven't. Trump doesn't sleep. I sleep, or at least I try to. I'm not getting a lot of it here, but no, I'm just ahead 9 hours. Anyway, greetings, friends. Welcome to the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. I found here that the shooter, and I'm not going to name him, the Chicagoan, the Hispanic guy who is he's a Democratic socialist. Is that right? I found a receipt, allegedly a receipt for a $500 donation going back to 2020. A donation to Biden for president. So, just letting you know, I mean, this guy actually had at one point donated to Joe Biden. So this is, of course he has. Of course this person's a leftist. And of course this story is going to disappear faster than you can say, free Palestine. That's actually the maddening thing about this. You know when the left would care about anti-Semitism? If this was someone wearing a red hat who listens to Kanye West. Can I even say Kanye? I don't even think that. Somebody who is a white supremacist, white nationalist. Because of course some, crazy people on the right despise Jewish people as well. And we, other people, normal people on the right, criticize these idiots, these haters, despise them, and want nothing to do with them. And can you ever imagine, that this is, people that we would want anything to do with? But anyway, I digress. If it was somebody like that, if it was a conservative, quote unquote, right, some sort of crazy whack job that had done this, This would be the biggest story on the news 24/7 a day for weeks. And that's why this is part of the Great Con. It's never about the issue. The left exists on a sort of a quicksand, if you will, of morality, of conviction. There's no solid footings. There's no, you're not moored to any kind of, grounded in any kind of reality. You have, simply put, whatever is convenient in the moment to win politically, to win an argument, to win a battle, a fight. And right and wrong doesn't exist. Outrage is the currency. Hate is what sells. Nobody wants to analyze the South Africa thing, right? Nobody wants to get into it. They want to say the whites are racist. The whites, whether they lived during apartheid and participated in it or not, they're white. They're racist. I have yet to meet, in all the years of living in Irvine, California, growing up, interacting with hundreds of South Africans, to the point where I can mimic, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to try to do it, my South African accent, okay? I mean, I've spent so much time around South Africans that I can speak like a South African, okay? There's a little bit Australian there, but you get the point. I mean, I had never met one, Robbie, not once, and you, by the way, grew up in Irvine with me. You know this. Have you ever met one that was like, yeah, apartheid was great? They all thought it was terrible. They were all supporters of Nelson Mandela. These people were all so grossed out by the system, and they fought for racial justice. And their thank you now is kill the farmer, kill the Boer. That's their thank you. Nobody wants to say this. Nobody wants to talk about it because the left doesn't care about logic. They don't care about facts. They don't care about history. They don't care about anything other than the outrage du jour. That's French for outrage of the day, right? That's all they care about. Now, here on the What's Right show, we live in Realville. Remember, Rush would always say, I'm the mayor of Realville. I love that. He'd level with us, right? He'd tell us, he'd look at us, listen, let's bring it back to reality. Well, that's what I'm doing here. I try to, at least, every time I'm on the air. And the reality is that Trump is right. And the media that is railing against him is stuck in an emotional wonderland. Okay. And that same thing right now. And I cannot believe that in 2025, it's something unimaginable to me as a kid growing up. I mean, I thought that we were sort of beyond Jew hatred. I felt like that ship had sailed, right? So, no, I'm just telling you, like, I thought it sailed, but apparently it hasn't. And it has had this enormous revival. And it didn't start. This is the most important thing I want to get to. If there's nothing else I do, the most important thing here is it didn't start after Israel retaliated in the wake of October 7th. It started before October 7th, by the way, and it started the moment October 7th happened, because I remember vividly waking up that weekend, it was a Saturday, waking up that morning and appalled at what little news at first, but just terrible news was coming out of Israel. And I remember, and I think you'll remember this too, a number of these crazy leftists going, yeah, but you know what? Israel provoked this. Yeah, but you know, there's no yeah, but. There's no yeah, but there's no, oh yeah, you know, it's, you know, Israel. I mean, they, you know, yeah. what they do, the poor Palestinians, I guess Hamas had to just go in there and bind families together with chicken wire and light them on fire while they were alive. I mean, we had to do that. We had to rape and mangle the bodies of the victims. We had to do that. I don't want to be graphic. I'm telling you that this is the history. I mean, this happened. The crime scenes hadn't even been cleared yet. And American intellectuals, internationally, right? International liberals all around the world, globalists and the types are like, well, the Israelis haven't been really good to the Palestinians. You can understand why they would do this. The sympathies were with Hamas from the beginning. And Israel is doing and has done the right thing to go in. And look, I'm telling you, war is war and it's terrible. But there's only one thing you can do with people that want you dead. You cannot head fake your way into believing you can coexist and sing Kumbaya. And this is what I've always told my South African friends. It's funny because, a lot of them are very liberal. And of course, they're living in the U.S. And so they're like, well, oh my gosh, it's so terrible. And I said, well, you're here, right? You're in the U.S. Why? Well, the country's, it's dangerous. I go, well, why? Well, law and order. I go, why? Maybe, just maybe, the Nelson Mandela fantasy that you had in your heads isn't real and didn't work out. Right? Maybe, just maybe, your idea of how the country would be if it was all just everybody saying, got together and talked like the president of South Africa suggested to Trump, right? We just sit around, here in South Africa, what did he say? I mean, he made this was his point right at the very beginning. He said, hey, listen, we would like to have talks between us and President Trump ought to listen. You can't sit around and talk and listen to someone who behind your back or maybe even to your face is like, yeah, I think I want you eliminated. I want to take your land and I want to kick you out of your country. In this respect, South Africa and the Palestinians, right, and Hamas are very similar. And isn't it funny that the left sympathizes with both Hamas and the South African government run by these lunatics that want to see a white genocide? Thank goodness we've got Donald Trump to put this all in check. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Hi, Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Welcome to the What's Right show. Big news today. Just a couple of hours ago, the Department of Homeland Security has revoked Harvard's student exchange visitor program. This is huge news. Remember yesterday, we talked about Marco Rubio, one of the most improved Republicans of the year. I gave him and Megyn Kelly that award yesterday, and I stand by it. Marco Rubio, absolutely on fire, and it's beautiful stuff. But one of the things when Chris Van Hollen was going at him and Tim Kaine were going at him about pursuing various protesting students at universities. The very students, by the way, that chant free, free Palestine and support the types of people like this terrorist that attacked and murdered in cold blood 2 Jewish persons last night in Washington, D.C. Okay? What did Marco Rubio say when they said, well, you can't just we're kicking these people out for free speech? Marco Rubio, damn straight, if they're guests of the country, they're out. So in revoking now the Department of Homeland Security, right, revoking Harvard's exchange visitor program, this basically makes it so that Harvard cannot, on its own, enroll foreign students. Now, this is a big deal because, one, obviously it's a punitive measure against Harvard, but I don't think a lot of people out there realize, I mean, you know this because you listen to this program, but I don't think a lot of people realize how much money flows into these universities from foreign students. I remember back, being in law school at Chapman, and we always there was an LLM program, basically a legal master's program that I don't know what it's really for. It's, you can't, for example, in the US, you can't practice law with an LLM because in order to stand for most bar exams, you have to have a JD. But the LLM is kind of a fluff degree that you can get here in the US as a foreign student and then have, go back to whatever country you're in. You're like, I've got an American LLM. And if you're a local attorney in, practice in I don't know, in Qatar, if you will, you basically, can go back there and have an extra feather in your cap. So I'm not talking LLMs now. I'm just telling you it's kind of a fluff degree. Anyway, we were overrun with Middle Eastern students. And some of these students, there was a kid. I had a nice car in law school because, of course, I had already been working and I was a successful businessman, when I went to law school. So I had a nice car. And there was another kid there that also had a very nice car that was similar to mine. And he was part of this, he was this LLM student from Saudi Arabia. And he literally, his parents shipped him off there with this extraordinary car. And he was just living in Orange County, going to school, getting some stupid degree. And where am I going? Because the school gets, I forgot, I don't remember, can't tell you, and I won't, what the school budget is at Chapman for these international students, but it was huge. Of the entire budget of the School of Law, these international students accounted for a significant portion of it. It was just a handful of students, 20 or 30 or 40, whatever it was, out of the whole school. So when and this is how you target these institutions, right? If the U.S. government is giving Harvard a privilege, Columbia a privilege to invite foreign students, charge them up the yin yang, okay? If a regular tuition for a domestic, American student is 40 or 50 or 60,000 a year, this is double. It can be. So that's a privilege, and the U.S. government gives the school that privilege. And Trump is done playing nice guy. This is the difference between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0. By the way, we are exactly 123 days into Trump's second term. 1, 2, 3. It's like steps. 1, 2, 3. And I think, when we're looking at 1, 2, 3, I think we're doing really well. And the reason we're doing well is that Trump has discovered all of the tools, the powers that he has as the executive, as the president, that he has, and he's realized how to use them. So again, the Department of Homeland Security, the Secretary of State, give this authority to American universities, and the American universities then get to invite foreign students, and they just say, okay, you're done. We're done here. We're taking it away from you. And so today, May 22nd, they sent a nice little letter. Effective immediately, Harvard University's student and exchange visitor program certification is revoked. Is revoked, by the way, is in bold. And this is from Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security. So this will be interesting, right? So this is development. By the way, the other big development today, and it's I think this is the real story. Ed Martin. Ed Martin. This is the guy that got sunk by the rhinos in the Senate. Ed Martin was supposed to be the U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia. And you remember he got basically torpedoed by Tom Tillis and a couple of other PUSSY Republicans. So anyway, so Tillis and others sunk him, and Martin ended up going into the Department of Justice as the quote-unquote pardon attorney and director of the DOJ's weaponization working group. Now, he hasn't been on the job more than, about 10 days. And they've just announced that he's starting to discover people who have been using the auto pen. The auto pen pardons. Now, he was still digging into this matter while he was the interim U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, but he's going to continue that job. He's reached out to members of the Biden family and other persons of interest who now apparently, by some reports, this is in theblaze.com, have lawyered up. They've hired attorneys. And a whistleblower apparently has come forward with some very troubling allegations. Quote, I had a whistleblower in my office 10 days ago, a senior Democrat, saying, look, it was these 3 people that controlled access, and they were making money off of it. Close quote. This is from Ed Martin talking to a journalist, Mark Halperin, on the Two-Way Tonight Show. I don't know if I believe it yet, but the point is I think we have to get to the bottom of it for the American people and to protect the process, and that's what we're doing. Ed Martin indicated that the whistleblower was involved with the 2020 Biden campaign. It's wild stuff, folks. Absolutely insane. What do you think about this? Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Be right back in just a moment. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. By the way, I saw somebody sent me an article about illegal immigrants purposely causing accidents, only to collect insurance rewards, payouts, and that this is driving up insurance costs across the country. And of course, I dig into my years and years long experience as an accident attorney, injury attorney, and of course we do a variety of cases, but car accidents are some of them. And it's funny. Well, I get it, because a lot of Republicans, conservatives, think that rates are driven primarily by fraud. By the way, that the number one driver of rates going up and up and up has everything to do with crime? Wait, what do you think, right? That it costs more to insure in Las Vegas, basically a Kia, than it does, like an entry-level Mercedes. And the reason is that your Kia is far more likely to get stolen than, let's say, a C-Class Benz. The criminal rate, the fact of the matter is, the vandalism, crime, right? California rampant, spreading everywhere. Law and order matters. But I want to get back to there are, and folks, you've got to be aware of this, right? The way you can tell a fraudulent accident, and listen up, this is absolutely important. I hope it never happens to you, but you'll have a car right in front of you. They appear to be speeding up, slowing down, speeding up, and then suddenly they wait for you to be close up to them, and then they just slam on their brakes. And if you hit them, and by the way, I've seen tape even of the car behind not hitting them, and then the car in front backing into you suddenly and making it seem like they got rear-ended. Okay? A dash cam. Number one thing, right? I strongly recommend it. But here's how you know that it's fraudulent. You'll immediately see in the car in front, like 5 people get out of it. They will pack that car, whether it's people here in the country, legally or illegally. They all do. It's a fact of life. And there's some unscrupulous lawyers that actually stage these accidents to get cases. I mean, it happens. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't. I always promise to tell you straight. And what happens is, okay, so they'll slam on their brakes. You know, maybe you hit them, maybe you don't. And they'll have, for example, they'll have like pillows or blankets in the rear window. And you're wondering probably, well, why do they do that? Well, they do it because the glass shatters, right? And so they don't want, if the rear window pops out or breaks, they don't want glass to cut them. They're very thoughtful. They want to get only slightly injured. You know, they want like a soft tissue injury. They don't want to get, end up bleeding out. So just, if you have something like that happen, obviously get some help, right? Get a lawyer, talk to a lawyer, find out, what's going on. And please, like, if you can at all, particularly if you're driving in Las Vegas, LA, anywhere like that, get a dash cam. Because people do crazy stuff on the road, and you do not want to go against somebody's word, especially if they're cracked out of their mind. Okay? So my answer to this, that, illegals are driving up your rates, but there's also plenty of miscreants, domestic miscreants that live in this country legally who are not helping at all. And you've seen the driving around town. This is not just illegals. I mean, this is atrocious driving and lots of criminal activity. All right. So, by the way, if you've been in an accident, something happened to you, remember, right? A lot of people get hurt and they have a legitimate injury. And the insurance company will basically treat you with an illegitimate injury. They'll treat you like one of these fraud people. I mean, they just approach everybody like they're a fraud artist. And it's maddening. If you're a decent person coming to the insurance company, your palms up going, hey, just take care of me. It's infuriating. So don't have that happen to you. Get some help. Call Sam & Ash Injury Law, the only law firm to trust. And particularly you conservatives out there, don't end up with some, woke lawyer. Okay. It's just a woke lawyer going up against a woke insurance company. You're going to get screwed. Sam & Ash Injury Law, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. Now, we deserve what's right in Washington. The budget bill has passed the House, the big, beautiful bill, by one vote. There was a congressman, Robbie, I don't know if you saw this, from Long Island, who fell asleep. He fell asleep somewhere in the cloakroom. I don't know if he was hanging out with a congressional page. No, they don't have that anymore. But a little throwback to some scandal popular in the 90s when I was a kid. I knew a guy, actually. He's in politics now, who was a page. He was a congressional page. I don't know if he'd ever been molested, but anyway, he fell asleep. He just fell asleep in the backbench, and that was that. Like, he missed the vote, and I guess Speaker Johnson had to get up there and say, well, I love this guy. I love him like a brother, but we almost lost this. Kind of have to show up. People back in New York, in Long Island, are having a fit over this, or saying that he's past his prime. He's a young guy. I'm looking at this. He is not. He's not a. Yeah, he's a young guy. I don't know. So anyway, all right. What do I think of this bill? Lots of good provisions in it. The problem is the debt. The other problem is we missed an opportunity to codify the Doge cuts. That will be a problem. It is, fundamentally. And it explains why we have a deteriorated credit rating. And the credit rating doesn't have to do with Trump messing things up. The credit rating has to do with America borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, and the increased likelihood that we're going to have a debt default. Now, I mean, that's what it is, right? I mean, I saw some idiot somewhere write, oh, we're not going to have a debt default. We're just going to keep printing more money. Okay, idiot, that's the same thing. Right? like, how do I put this nicely, Robbie? I explain it to the people in the back. If you just keep putting more money into circulation, printing money, gradually all the money out there, the money you have, the money I have, the money that somebody else has, the government has, is worth less. It's taxation, it's default by another means, right? the value of the dollar continues to decrease. By the way, that's bad too in a whole sorts of important economic ways, not just because it's inflationary pressure on us as consumers, but the other thing is obviously it weakens the dollar and makes the dollar as a reserve currency, as a international trade currency, makes it less desirable. These are problems, right? We have to contend with these problems. The Republicans, I mean, look, I think, and hear me out on this, I think that the House of Representatives needs a new leader. And the person that they need to elect, I don't even know, I don't have a name. The person that needs to be the new Speaker of the House needs to run and nationalize come November of 2026, nationalize a campaign around codifying Doge cuts. You will get Republicans and independents en masse to go out and vote on that one issue alone. It's not going to be about tariffs. It's not going to be about Trump. It's not going to be about China. It's not going to be about Iran. It's not going to be about Israel. It's on Palestine. Anything. Literally, you run a campaign on, we can't keep spending money we don't have. We got to cut. We got to codify Doge cuts. We got to get Elon Musk on the campaign trail. I promise you, the reason that Republicans will lose if they don't do this is that Republicans are afraid of their own shadow when it comes to Elon Musk, when it comes to, say, they're believing what the mainstream media is feeding people, but it's not representative of what the public thinks. And these polls, I mean, some have some the support for this up, some have it down, but I'm convinced that there is broad public support for righting our national debt crisis. And look, I mean, I'm all for tax cuts and things, but you got to cut the spending, and you've got to put it in the bill. It's got to be there, and it's not there. And Republicans have allowed themselves to be bullied back by Democrats. And what they could say now, and hear me out on this, I just thinking, prospectively, Republicans could say, look, we didn't have enough votes. Give us more young MAGA blood. Give us more, deficit cutting, bandits to join our league. Make the Republican majority great again. Go back to the enormous success that was Newt Gingrich and the contract with America. Newt made it very simple. Look, if you vote Republican, here's what you're going to get. And he became the voice of that, right? He became the salesman for this. And it worked spectacularly because people said, okay, I don't know who my local Republican guy running, whatever, he looks like a schlub, but I'm going to vote for him because I want that Newt guy in there. Mike Johnson isn't cutting it. He isn't. He's a nice guy. I've met him. He's great. He's fine, whatever. He's just not cutting it. I think he's a weenie. He's spineless. And he also maybe is hurt by the fact that he doesn't have the cog, but he's not a pitch man. It doesn't mean that the last guy, right, was good either, right? It wasn't, we had our problems there too. So it could be somebody different, could be somebody new. I guess George Santos is reporting for jail. Speaking of Long Island Republicans, George Santos, of course, is the Republican congressman who made up all sorts of stuff about his resume, including, he also stole some money, apparently, was convicted of it. But I've come to quite appreciate him as a disruptor. He's been a great presence on social media. But but he's liberated from having to, put up with anybody's BS. So he's been very truthful. I think it'll take that kind of a fire breather, is my point, maybe not somebody who is a liar, okay, but somebody who is an absolute, has a personality, has a strength to get out the point and fight for it in a way that Newt Gingrich did back in 1994. So what was that? I mean, that's has that been 20 years, Robbie? It's 20 years since the contract with America. 20, 30. Oh my gosh. See, I'm late at night over here, and I'm my brain isn't working. Oh my God, 31. Okay, now I feel old. I'm done. I'm out of here. Quick break. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right Show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, doesn't matter who causes it, illegals or not, call Sam & Ash, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. Hey, speaking of illegal immigrants, this story out of Ohio is wild. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Apparently, a 24-year-old Venezuelan claiming to be the victim of human trafficking, okay, posed as a teen to attend an Ohio high school for over a year. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Welcome to the What's Right Show. Yeah, Robbie, this is wild. He went to an Ohio high school for over a year, told people he was a 16-year-old, okay? His name is Anthony Emmanuel Labrador Sierra. Attended a Perrysburg high school near Toledo from January 2024 until last week, when it was discovered he lied about his age. You know how this all came out? Apparently, so he was staying with a couple that has a history. A big-hearted couple apparently takes in troubled teens, and they believed him, right? They took him at his word. And I think maybe he was placed by some sort of agency. Anyway, he ends up with this nice couple that take in teenagers that are victims of various crimes, whatever. And apparently a woman came knocking at the door, an adult woman, saying, "Hi, I'm looking for so-and-so. He's the father of my child." So I guess the first reaction is, oh my gosh, this woman is guilty. Should be charged with statutory rape. And what's she doing with this? I don't know how old the kid was, but apparently, this kid was an early teen whenever he fathered the kid. So they quickly figured out that this guy was lying to everybody. So that's it's an absolutely crazy story. Now, people are talking about the humorous aspect. It's not a humorous, but just the craziness of the incident. I think it belies or really underscores the point here that it's these immigrants that came into this country in this last wave, because that's when he did, the Biden wave, they just weren't vetted. They didn't have IDs. They didn't have any papers. They didn't have any background checks. They didn't have anything. And every time that Karine Jean-Pierre got on television and told us, from the White House, where these people are getting vetted, they're getting vetted. We're doing it back. Oh my God, we're very thorough. We're very thorough. Alejandro Mayorkas, who some are saying right now is going to be charged with treason for allowing in 12 to 21 million illegal immigrants. I don't know. We'll see about that. But anyway, he said the same thing. We're vetting people. We're vetting people. Well, obviously you're not. You've got some really violent criminal thugs that somehow ended in the country. Well, whoopsie daisy. And not just ended up in the country, but we're given housing. We're giving public benefits. We're given, all sorts of state assistance, right? And then you've got this man-child, who snuck in. And this is horrible because, presumably if he'd had any relationships with teenage girls at the high school, this is just awful. The school district said that they felt that they can't keep kids safe, given this incident. I'm like, yeah, well, damn straight. But I don't know if it's a fault. Like, a school district has a guy come in. I mean, he's in the country. He says he's a certain age. He says he's been sex trafficked or whatever the situation was here, human trafficking. He signs an attestation to his age. Anyway, just an absolute wild story. And I think this is it. By the way, NBC News reportings on the immigration front that 4,500 migrants were told to pay fines of up to $1.8 million. This is wild. They talk about a story about a mom. It's always a mom. It's a nice mom. Wendy Ortiz was surprised to find out that she was being fined by U.S. immigration authorities for being in the country illegally. But it was the amount that truly shocked her. $1.8 million. Ha! Ortiz, 32, who earns $13 an hour in her job at a meatpacking plant in Pennsylvania, has lived in the U.S. for a decade. She fled El Salvador to escape a violent ex-partner and gang threats. Isn't it funny? They're all escaping gangs, Robbie, but none of them are gang members. Isn't that interesting? Everybody's trying to run away from a gang, but none of them, have any gang affiliation. I'm just, what am I? Whatever. By the way, if she's really worried about her violent gang member partner, my chances are that now with the new president, Nayib Bukele, in El Salvador, that violent ex-partner is sitting over there in CCOT, the Supermax prison. I don't know. Anyway. Oh, she's got an autistic kid. Look, I'm not making fun of it. I'm just saying, it's always the same story. The media does this, right? It's a mom. It's a Maryland dad. They've got an autistic son. They've got a this. They got a that. They got sob story. Is she in the country illegally? Yes or no? Oh, yeah, she is. Okay. By the way, they quote her in the news story. It's not fair, she said. Where is someone going to find that much money? I had to read the quote. I make sure I got it right. Where is someone going to find that money? Well, I don't know if they ever expect her to pay it. It's supposed to be a ruinous amount that basically takes everything that she has and sends her packing. In the last few weeks, according to NBC News, U.S. President Donald Trump has started to operationalize a plan to fine migrants who failed to leave the U.S. after a final deportation order. Oh, so she had a deportation order. You have to get to the end of the story to find out these things. The media, you gotta love them. All right, folks, I'll see you tomorrow. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT.